Archives of Prasar Bharati presents the timeless treasure of golden era.
A spindle spinning in a weaver's village, turning the threads of the past, crafting the present. We are in Kanchipuram, in the southern state of Tamil Nadu.
On the road to ancient Kanchipuram, we stopped, enthralled by a barefooted devotee carrying a flower-covered idol of the goddess Mariamma, flanked by two young attendants. At the end of their journey, in a decorated temple, cauldrons of consecrated rice soup would be shared by all the village people. These ceremonies probably began more than 4,000 years ago.
Villages like Kariyacheri are the repositories of many long-standing traditions.
So too is the ancient town of Kanchipuram. Literary references to the city reputedly extend its past to the 2nd century BC. There is reason to believe the Buddhist scholar missionary Bodhidharma journeyed from here carrying the secrets of tea and the martial arts to East Asia.
The temples of the south are, thus, great treasure troves of the timeless heritage of our land.
The Pallava dynasty, for instance, is accredited with having built the richly decorated Ekambareshwar temple, later renovated by the Chola and Vijayanagara kings. Here Lord Shiva is worshipped as Prithvi, or earth, one of the 5 elements.
It is also associated with a spreading mango tree. Ek is one, Amra is mango, and Nath is the Lord. Many people believe that Lord Shiva and Parvati were married beneath its boughs. Today, devotees tie sacred threads to this revered tree for the boon of a child, and in thanksgiving, adorn it with little cradles.
The chariots of the gods, or vahanas, are displayed off one of the corridors of this temple. These vehicles are always specific birds or animals, and thus, in a preemption of modern conservation practices, afforded a divine protection to a large number of creatures.
Such temples are repositories and guardians of art and architecture, and spread artistic appreciation among common people. The carvings and the pillars in this mandap hall are worth lingering over for the exquisiteness of their workmanship. These 3 successive pillars, for instance, are fashioned in 3 distinct historical styles: Vijayanagara, Chola and Pallava.
The auspicious rice flower designs, colon, are similar to many which have been found in the Indus Valley civilization.
While the Ekambareshwar temple is dedicated to Lord Shiva, the Varadaraja temple is centered around Lord Vishnu, where his shrine is on an elephant-shaped rock called Hastagiri. Ascribed to the Vijayanagara kings, There is an interesting tale connected with this temple.
According to a senior priest, an arm of the original wooden idol of the Lord decayed and fell off. Since damaged idols cannot be worshipped, it was wrapped in protective coconut bark and immersed at the bottom of the tank marked by the shrine. Once every 40 years, the tank is drained and the idol is brought out and kept for veneration for 40 days, and then re-immersed.
That seemingly disembodied head in the water is a devotee doing an aquatic variation of yoga.
Close to the tank is the so-called 1,000-pillared hall. It is particularly rich with sculptures, including very striking ones of horsemen. The Vijayanagar kings were reputed for their martial prowess, and their art reflects their talents.
On a more feminine note is the Kamakshi Amman temple with its gold vimana built by the Cholas in the 13th century. At the entrance, an elephant begged for alms and blessed donors with his trunk. Devotees worshipped the mother goddess, Kamakshi, and perhaps requested for a boon from the wishing tree. This temple is also the seat of one of the religious provinces or mats established by the missionary seer Adi Shankaracharya.
Near the flower store, selling the lotus blooms favored by the goddess, we met T.V. Nagarajan. He plays the violin without playing the violin. He sings, then hums his own violin accompaniment very effectively.
Both music and art are an essential part of all the living temples of Tamil Nadu. Some temples, however, do not attract many devotees. Their artistic wealth is protected by our central and state archaeological organizations.
One of them is Raja Simha Pallava's 8th century Kailashnath temple. Sadly, the old architects chose a rather soft sandstone for their work. 1,200 years of wind and rain have eaten into many of the carvings, though the Archaeological Survey of India continues to wage a war against the elements. In spite of the passage of 12 centuries, we found this surviving painting in a secluded niche in this ancient temple. Interestingly, the temple looks much like the better-known Shore temple in Mahabalipuram, built by the same Pallava dynasty.
Another protected, though not very well conserved, temple is an old Digamba Jain shrine at the multi-syllabic hamlet of Tiruparuthi Kundram. It is on the outskirts of Kanchipuram. Off the beaten track and generally locked, this temple is well worth visiting. No longer a living temple, this shrine must once have been used as a belvedere by picnicking Britons. Today, many of its once exquisite paintings have been destroyed by seepage, but those that remain took our breaths away.
Just beyond the temple, verdant rice fields spread, bringing prosperity to the farmers. Adapting their traditional methods to modern techniques, these farmers are using the East Asian rice seedling method to increase their yield. Some traditions, however, do not need to change.
In the dappled shade of a tamarind plantation, we saw families earning pin money stretching the warp for 12 sarees. They worked skillfully between supporting trestles. We followed the process back to the weaver's loft, where the raw silk thread, shimmering like spun platinum, is dyed to colors that dazzle the eye.
In another room, designers borrow liberally from patterns carved in old temples, arabesques and scrolls and frets and stylized flowers and birds. These are transferred into jacquard punched cards.
The 4-ply silk yarn and the cards cooperate with the weaver's skilled feet and fingers to produce fabrics of timeless glory. Often, gold thread is woven into the saree. Other artisans, like Chitra, do not use the French-invented jacquard, preferring to rely on their inherited skills. Cotton lungis are also woven here.
From rural villages such as this, the resplendent creations of the weavers of Kanchipuram are carried to retailers in the town. These sarees range from 900 rupees all the way up to 35,000 rupees. From the moment they are bought, they become family heirlooms, being handed down lovingly through the generations. A Kanchipuram is forever.
If you want to take a break in Kanchipuram, access is easy. You can stay in one of the 2 hotels with the most acceptable accommodation. Rooms such as this in the state-run hotel are pegged at 300 rupees AC double. There is also budget accommodation. You can get there by train. Or you can fly into Madras and then drive the 75 kilometers by car or coach.
The roads out of Kanchipuram are pleasant, often shaded by spreading tamarind trees and dotted with palmyra palms. The fruit of the tamarind is rich in vitamin C and is extensively used in southern cuisine. The palms, on the other hand, provide an eco-friendly, biodegradable, self-sustaining resource for the beautiful thatched villages of Tamil Nadu.
a bullock cart laden with harvested palmyra leaves rolls across the green meadow of Vedanthangal, 72 kilometers from Kanchipuram. Literally the hunter's dwelling, the wetlands of Vedanthangal must once have been a bird hunter's haven. Today, it is a waterbird sanctuary, carefully tended by the state's forest department, and a good day excursion from Kanchipuram. In the nesting season, November to February or April, according to the foresters, Vedanthangal is alive with quacking flocks of pintail duck, grey heron, little cormorant, white ibis, grey pelican, open-billed storks and darters.
We went there in the off-season, but were delighted with its green serenity. Even more delighted were two local farmers. Birds and farmers have a symbiotic relationship. We don't like artificial fertilizers, they said. We get it from the birds. Their droppings in the water are the best fertilizer. The birds are our protectors as well. They clean our fields of insects and pests.
We left the farmers, the birds, and the fruitful water meadows of Vedanthangal and headed for an area fertilized by history. The promise of the riches of Tamil Nadu attracted Dutch traders in the 17th century. They set up a fortified factory or warehouse in Sadras, 73 kilometers from Kanchipuram. Today, the massive walls and a few buildings of the old factory still stand. Close to the walls is a spreading tree where Boy Scouts promised to serve their country and humanity. At the far end of the fort, on the seaward side, this must have been the Dutch warehouse. Here, they probably kept the silks and spices of India before they were shipped to Holland. Through a hole in the wall, we saw the sea. This wall must have been built after the British East India Company took over the fort. We found the remains of another wall, which must have held the old sea gate of the evicted Dutch.
We walked back to the entrance and looked down. The old cemetery spread below. Here were people like Peter Hemsick, laid to rest in 1682, and Abraham Whitman, who followed him 13 years later. Our very indifferent translation of the Dutch inscription led us to believe that Damon Hafta was a captain in the Ceylon regiment of the Dutch East India Company. The Dutch forces were formidable, but they could not stand against the growing might of the British. Reluctantly, the Dutch left India.
One nation, however, refused to knuckle under. We must now drive down the surf-washed coast and, in that former old colonial bastion, we will tread softly through an old French window.